it's just like 7-Eleven. Like, you just drive by, you don't think about the fact that they sell things that may kill you, or.
Sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, but they also produce lead, mercury, hydrochloric acid, formaldehyde. All these things are not monitored beyond the one test that they have in April every year.
Where I'm obligated now to take medicine every day because I'm bringing up out of my sleep, coughing up toxin from, you know.
I grew up and always wanted to live in the city, just to be near things. And I mean, it's convenient and easy living for the most part. And so bought my house like I think 18 years ago, something like that. So I already lived in South Baltimore, but Westport specific, I was a new resident at that time. We are a waterfront community that is tight knit. If you want to live in a city but be accessible to BWI Airport, to be near 95, 295, and 395, and everything that ends with a 95, we would love for you to come here. And if you don't want to live here, visit Mount Auburn Cemetery. It's full of history. Come go over to Middle Branch Park, which is just behind where we live. It's close enough, and take a look at the water, kayak. Um, just drive through, stop at the Jack's Carryout and get a half and half and wave hello and keep going. But I don't think I get a chance to highlight the great things that has happened and is happening because it's just so much other stuff going on.
The waste incineration industry has really sold their industry as a win-win sustainable solution. But if you're an environmental justice community, it is a lose-lose proposition.
The thing is with Westport and in South Baltimore, it has been a dumping ground for all things that other neighborhoods don't want. And much of that has to do with elected officials and agency leaders just don't live in South Baltimore. They live other places in the city. So they don't mind dumping where it's not in their neighborhood, it's not in their backyard.
In the 1960s, the city was facing a serious waste crisis. Landfills were nearing capacity, as were the two incinerators already at work in Baltimore, one off Pulaski Highway and another near Cherry Hill. Desperate for solution, officials set about building a third incinerator. Consultants were clear that this need was best met in North Baltimore and recommended several sites there, including one north of Cold Spring Lane and another north of Union Avenue in Hamden. Located near white and affluent neighborhoods, each site was met with resistance. News of the Union Avenue proposal brought 700 residents of Hamden to protest in 1962. Mayor J. Harold Grady acquiesced that very day. In 1972, a highly unusual opportunity emerged to build an experimental waste facility in majority Black Westport. Monsanto proposed to disappear waste through pyrolysis, an unproven technology designed to convert trash into combustible gas by heating it in oxygen-free cans. The plant rarely worked for more than 2 weeks at a time, and residents complained of loud noises, pervasive smoke, and noxious odors. Within a few short years, the whole affair had left the city short on funds and quite humiliated. Enter the incinerator, formerly known as BRESCO, proposed on the ashes of the failed pyrolysis plant in 1981.
When you look at a lot of the different industries that's in our community, they weren't always supposed to be here first. They were supposed to go in other communities that were white communities, that communities with money that looked different from ours.
It's all about, putting down those communities and lower income and communities of color, prioritizing those around them and putting them to deal with the bad stuff, with the leftovers or with the pollution.
In a 2017 study on Baltimore's Wheelabrator, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation linked it to health problems like asthma and chronic bronchitis, costing $55 million a year. In 2019, an environmental study found Baltimore's incinerator is among the worst 3 in America for emitting lead.
They had really bad effects with COVID because they have already been immune compromised because they have been constantly living next to these different machineries, especially this incinerator as the #1 air polluter that were causing them health damages. So I think the biggest thing we do is expose the truth behind the machine.
Growing up in South Baltimore, we've seen it, we've smelt it, we've lived it for decades. Our families have been surrounded by pollution from industries that treat our communities like a dumping ground.
And all of a sudden, we had to become what felt like developers or politicians or watchdog agencies. We had to be all these things outside of needing to live and survive, like, sacrificing too much of our personal time to help understand what's happening, and not to be combative, but why are you here? Let's see how this impacts where I live. Is this environmentally safe, and blah, blah, blah. So, it was just a whole lot of work and it still happens, and it's exhausting. But somebody has to get in front of and do it, because people will run over you.
And so this incinerator started to steep its way into that by saying, we are renewable energy. Like, we're great. We're the same as literally wind and solar. And so we started to essentially pay them through subsidies to pollute us and to kill us.
This is a time for Maryland to be supporting our in-state generating facilities, not enacting a new policy that will send ratepayer dollars out of state. The elimination of waste to energy as a Tier 1 renewable source would also ignore the many benefits these facilities bring to our communities.
Baltimore City has stated that moving away from waste to energy would cost more than $100 million to expand landfills and build a transfer station to send our trash to Virginia.
And we kind of came up with a number that was at least combined between the two up to between $60 to $97 million in health damages annually to Maryland and DC.
And I promise you, if there were health impacts from our plant, we'd be the ones that would be very concerned. However, there's decades of research that shows that it does not.
If you look at the combined health burdens from the BRESCO and medical waste incinerator, you see that the people who bear the most of the costs, the healthcare costs associated with breathing in the pollution they emit, is mostly borne by those who are socioeconomically vulnerable within Maryland and DC.
The things that are done in most city neighborhoods of certain demographics would never happen somewhere else.
It's always here. It's always literally, you can call it before it happens that it's going to be in South Baltimore, because they have now created a sacrifice zone. And in that zone, which is because of redlining, right? Those zones that already exist, they just start to put a lot of those different machineries in there, and there are always people of color that's being sacrificed.
So what are the risks if we close? Baltimore will ship waste to Virginia, 30,000 tractor trailers. That's how much waste we would take. 350 round trip miles, another 900,000 tons of greenhouse gases.
Whether we like it or not, we have to have options for waste disposal in Maryland. We are all grappling with the realities of diminishing landfill capacity in Maryland.
It's not practical. It's not practical to just burn everything and be like, now we're done with it. We don't see it anymore. You do see it. It's in ash. It's in what's going into your air. And so it's coming from trash to pollutants. And so we really started to fight back against that incinerator. And then what we really noticed is what we were burning was things that our ancestors had already made solutions for, like food waste. Why are we burning food waste? Food waste never made sense to burn.
Everybody grandmother had eggshells in their houseplants. Grandmothers crushed the Baltimore crabs, Maryland crabs, and put it in the garden to make fish hydrolate, beautiful soil enhancers. So we've been composting. The goal is to starve that incinerator. We know it can't shut it down because it makes a lot of money for Baltimore City, but we can starve it to the point where they'll have to adopt zero waste practices, where compost becomes just as big as incineration.
We just passed the RPS bill, which actually took incineration out at a state level of being called renewable energy. And so that was one of those big fights because they were getting so millions of dollars in subsidies.
Move to approve this resolution.
All right, all those in favor of adopting resolution 20-0202R, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The resolution is adopted.
A local nonprofit has filed a civil rights complaint to the Environmental Protection Agency, claiming that people there are inhaling toxic chemicals in South Baltimore.
We specifically highlight the Baltimore City 10-year solid waste management plan because of the terms within it that allow for the continued rate of operation from BRESCO. We've highlighted that the rate of operation is untenable because of the amount of pollution that's contributed to communities and because of the fact that it exists not in a vacuum, but with and among other harmful polluters in the area.
There's no need for this, not at this day and age. We are sick and tired of being sick and tired.
For that to be able to be something we say, and our city wasn't fighting to also protect communities from this in South Baltimore that was already dealing with a lot of cumulative impacts and exposure, it became one of the main points of our fight.
These decision makers who are like controlling the budget respond to the dollar amount, right? So we're trying to meet with lawmakers and, have them consider doing similar health impact assessments before renewing permits for these incinerators, to at least make sure that they are, as I mentioned before, operating legally.
We are still moving towards the goal of, we're in the current 10-year contract, and the goal is to be, to not be using the incinerator after 2031 when the contract ends.
Won't be coming in here 10 years from now talking about starve the incinerator. I'll be the Yoda of composting, sitting on the top of the hill in my big man tiny house, and they can come when they getting burned out. I can give them how I was able to get out of some of those bad burnouts, and when I thought that, I just keep fighting this fight and nobody's listening, just to stay consistent.
What I would say is look for the good as we would anywhere else, and if we have enough good and we get more people and do good, then maybe we could somehow naturally turn the tides and get some of this stuff that doesn't mean us any good out of the neighborhood.
And it's not going to stop with South Baltimore. It's just going to keep going. It's going to keep growing. It's going to keep growing. So it's us right now, but it can be you later.